Hello, everybody, and welcome to year 2 of the rotation. 2 in a row, baby. Second season. We did, have a podcast in season with Røkkr. So it's technically the third season for me, but second with IKON and Kingdom on the rotation here to break down all of the Røkkr and CDL goodness and just really, chit chat, talk pod every week, every Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. on the Røkkr YouTube. I'm stoked to be back. And yeah, Kingdom, IKON, how was your guys' off season? What'd you get up to? Have you still been following COD pretty closely?
Yeah, for me, first of all, I'm happy to be back. Like, I'm really happy to be back on the show, and you guys might hear my dog bark in the background, but because she's happy to be back on the show too. But I'm really happy to be back on the show and talk about competitive COD. The funny thing about Call of Duty is like every time there's a title, like there's all this uproar about how bad the title is and all this. I don't think like there will be a year of my life. I don't know when it'll happen when competitive Call of Duty is going to start, and regardless of what I think about the game, I'm going to just have this amazing experience watching competitive COD. And actually, I get more excited about playing Vanguard watching competitive Vanguard. And so my off season was a lot of work and a lot more work and excited and waiting for Call of Duty to come back and give me something to do on some of my weekends. And so I love being glued to my phone with a single AirPod in while I'm walking around trying to act like I'm talking to family. So it's been really good ever since stuff has came back, and I had a really good off season.
Yeah, kind of same along those lines. I'm stoked to be back. It feels like you go 5 or 6 months every week talking about the same thing with competitive COD, and then the season's over and it's like, all right, so how do I kind of fill this void? So it's dope that it's back. I think the interesting thing going into this season is that there are far more storylines and there's far more uncertainty. It seems like at least the first couple seasons of the CDL, you kind of knew who was going to be good and who was going to be where and how the majors were going to shake out. Like, yeah, sure, there was always a surprise here or there, but you kind of knew that, like the Atlantas were going to be there and which teams were going to pop off, the Torontos, etc. And this year, it seems like all those teams that were kind of down towards the bottom third at the end of Black Ops Cold War. You've got London coming out 2-0. Seattle has been absolutely amazing. So not only do you still have those teams from before that are playing well, but it just seems like a much more competitive league this year. And that's going to make for crazier weeks. And these qualifiers are going to have just wrenches thrown in them that we probably haven't seen. And who knows what's going to happen at the majors. So I'm just excited to follow along this year and to get some different storylines and some new names and just see how the season plays out.
Yeah, this is most definitely the most like storyline rich or driven season that we've had in whether it's COD League, CWL, game battles, freaking online ladder, Modern Warfare 2, like this is I think just the richest history we've had in Call of Duty, as well as the amount of new faces that we're seeing kind of come into the league. I mean, we talked about it last year, but the old guard of the league, some of our, our favorite players, maybe aren't playing anymore, or maybe they're forming a bench somewhere and they're trying to kind of stay in it a little bit. And it's just been really interesting to kind of watch that rotation, if you will, of the league and the players. And I think because of that, we're seeing the most competitive league we've ever seen. I think you can kind of just see from the upsets that happened over this past weekend. Like there were some teams who were like, oh, "Wow, okay, they're legit." Like as you said, the teams that were in the bottom third last year definitely got better, and that's scary. I think even so this past week we had like a content shoot, and I was talking with MiDNiTE a little bit, and I was like, "Dude, the competition in the league is crazy." He said, "This is by far the most competitive it's ever been." Like they're fighting for their freaking lives in scrims. It's like, the matches come up and it's just insane. So I'm absolutely hyped for the season. I mean, obviously just super stoked coming off of the huge, huge dub over the weekend versus OpTic. Absolutely insane. So, for me, it's just really good to see that CDL's back, and it's really good to see Røkkr starting off with a win.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you look at, I'm sure that we'll dive a bit deeper into that Røkkr versus OpTic match, but it seems like in whole, if you look at that kickoff weekend, it seems like, okay, I would look at each of these matchups and be like, all right, this team's probably going to win. And it would come down to the last map or they would lose. It just seems like there's so much uncertainty. Even in week one, we have teams like London beating Florida and Boston showing up. Nobody really knew what would come from Boston, and that they come out with, two vets that had lost their spot the year before and two rookies. And now people have them in the top 6 of their power rankings. And it just seems like you can go down and down the line, and there's just so much uncertainty. And for me, it just seems like this season as a whole is going to be a roller coaster, and it'll be fun to see what happens.
It's gonna be ridiculous. The surprises that took place are the best part of competitive Call of Duty. It's like every time we get into a debate about whether or not the game should be consistent, because that's being talked about right now. Like maybe COD should have a 2-3 year life cycle and stuff like that. What makes Call of Duty esports what it is, what brings the drama to the table is like seeing all these players move teams and rosters switch. There's like 3 rosters that stuck together or whatever for this year, and then everybody else is like, nope, sorry, we're just changing it all up. And it's amazing to watch and see what happens, because the rivalries are built in that. And to your point, MiDNiTE, that you made, like, I mean, my favorite players are still on the sticks. Crim6, Clayster, and Scump. I mean, they're the 3 best players in Call of Duty history, in my opinion, and they are still playing on the sticks. And it's kind of no surprise that 3 of the winningest players in COD history, with the most rings, most championships, most money made, most followers, subs, all that kind of stuff, most watched and biggest fan base, that they're still at the top of their game, and they still have like that LeBron like attention where it's like, I can still get people to come play with me, and so I think this year is going to be that, like, that kind of reunion tour or not reunion, but retirement tour for some of them. But we'll see. A lot of people don't want to talk about the potential retirement, but well, it'll all be determined with the rest of these matches, because Scump and Clayster and Crim didn't see a lot of success last weekend. None of them did. It was unfortunate. And whoever said that, I have the same background. Good attention to detail, Mesma, in the chat.
Yeah, dude, I think we all got. I definitely got a new background because I got a new house. I regretfully still have not unpacked my office stuff. Nerd gamer stuff up. Yeah, it's going to. It's just been one of those things. But yeah, Kingdom. I mean, Kingdom. I feel like last season did have an evolving background, because sometimes you wouldn't know where he would be. He would be. There was like 4 different reasons for the podcast every week. Never really sure where it's gonna coming at you from. I guess I got like a random question. I'm just curious. What's a bigger surprise coming out of this past weekend of these 0-2 teams? The fact that subliners are 0-2, or the fact that OpTic Texas is 0-2? What's the bigger surprise for you guys?
For me, go ahead. Icon.
Well, listen, we all know that, if we had to pick a team that Kingdom's going to root for this year, he's going to continue his Dallas empire right into the New York subliners and follow his boys, Clay and Crim. So I'm sure we're going to have this back and forth all year, where he's going to pick New York all year, and I'm going to say that they're washed or something. But anyways, just kind of looking at these teams overall, I honestly, if any of these teams were 0-2, I'm not really sure I'd be all that surprised, just because it seems like this year, when you compare it to the previous 2 years of the CDL, with how fast the time to kill is and how much variance there seems to be map to map, it seems like it could just be a split second here or there on any S&D round that's going to end up putting one team over another, especially with how competitive everyone is. So at least right now, we're 1 week into online qualifier matches. So for me, like if I'm going through and I'm making power rankings and stuff, I'm not even really sure how much weight to put into that first week of matches. Honestly, if I was to go through and look at power rankings, I think I would probably take more from the matches that happened at the Kickoff Classic. Like when you were able to see what Seattle did on LAN against teams like Atlanta and NYSL and being able to be competitive with Toronto, for me, I think that holds way more weight than seeing that OpTic lost their first two online matches. When you look at now, again, they didn't play very well in that Kickoff Classic either. So maybe they're a bit more of a surprise because you would expect them. Yes, LA Thieves is gross and they're really good this year, but you would expect them to at least be able to take them to a map 5, and they lost against LA Thieves in the Kickoff Classic, and then to come back and have 2 losses in week 1. I think that's probably a bit surprising with the amount of skill that's on that OpTic roster. But when it comes to New York, yeah, they lost their first 2 during week 1, but you look at how they performed during the Kickoff Classic, got a win over Boston, of course, had the 3-0 over us in round 2, and then we're able to take a map off of Seattle. So when it comes to which team, I'm more surprised that they're 0-2, I guess my initial answer would be neither because it's still so early on in the life cycle of the game. But based off of what we saw from New York, I think I'm more surprised to see New York 0-2 because they look so good during the Kickoff Classic.
I would say for me, New York went 1-6 in map count last weekend. OpTic at least had 2 really grueling Game 5 round 11s that they lost in. Like, it's the ice factor, it's closing, and I know a lot of people are like, well, ice is luck, and that is so not true. That is so far from the truth that it's kind of ridiculous. Like all the Game 5, we had 5 Game 5s out of 10 matches. Like all the Game 5s were won by the team that iced up. Whether it was like FaZe icing up by just playing way better in that Game 5 than they were throughout the series, or or the Lamar ice. It's like whatever. I think that unfortunately we've seen these losses from OpTic in the past. You know, all of the pun intended for the Røkkr, but we've seen these really hard round 11 losses in the past, and they had 2 tough ones that have to be painful, and they had to have hurt. But to Icon's point, New York looked good in the kickoff, but their online play was just like, but that means Clayster and Krim are going to show up on land, and that's what you want, and you want the same thing from that OpTic squad. This, like, with Rambo and Sender and that entire roster that a couple of them have been playing COD for many, many, many years, and the experience, and I didn't expect to see OpTic come out and go 0-2. I really thought 1-1 would have kind of suited them. I thought they'd beat Lag. I mean, big ups to Lag for picking it up and doing what they did, because they lost one and then they picked up another one. They kind of kept it alive. But with NYSL, unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be rooting for them all year. Those are my dudes, and I'm always a Clayster fan. Like I will always be a Clayster fan. And Krim still in my mind is, the winningest and best player in COD history. It's hard not to put Seth up there, of course. I personally would love to see him win more this year than lose, just because if it does happen to be like the last time he jumps on the sticks, I want him to have a good last year. And so I was surprised drastically most by the fact that no one on OpTic really is like leading any statistical category or top 5 across like everything. At least Hydra was frying, so he's doing good statistically, and they just got to play around him better. But OpTic, I don't know what drawing board they go back to, so it's going to be really tough for them.
One thing to note, just kind of on your point with NYSL, is I thought it was super interesting. I forget what match it was. It might have been against LAG, but they did a listen in and their comms were completely off. Like there was Krim telling people to calm down. Like it seemed like Neptune and Hydra were like super cracked and it felt off, right? It was Clayster and Krim trying to get people to just chill out, calm down, execute our strats, play the game like we know how to play the game. So I don't know. To me, I would probably expect that more to happen during the Kickoff Classic. It just kind of took me by surprise because that's a squad where you just figure when it comes to their communication, if there's anything that's going to be on point the first week of the season, it's going to be their comms because they've been doing it for so long. And it just seems like maybe that was a bit off. But again, it's the first week of online qualifiers, so there's a bunch more that could play into it, I'm sure.
I would never say that the first like opening debut weekend of the season is, that's where it's literally just the start, right? But I will say, if you're Minnesota ROKKR, you're coming into one of the hardest, I think. I mean, very biased, obviously, because ROKKR stuff on. But like, we've got a tough freaking schedule, man. To start off with OpTic and to start off with a win is massive. So that's big news for us. I think I mean, for how the offseason shook out, sticking with our roster and some of the feedback we saw from whether it's fans or other talking heads of the scene to come out and ice up the way we did. I mean, I thought like when ROKKR lost that control, I thought for sure it was going to be GG's. So I apologize, guys, if my mic is messing up. I think I'm actually going to try to join from my phone because, the show don't freaking stop. I'm sorry about my mic. Everyone's aware, we did do a sound check. Everything sounded good, but you know how it goes. Hey, it wouldn't be the rotation if something wasn't like super freaking.
I can hear you really well.
So I guess a little bit like of a broader recap, a little bit about ROKKR. Do you guys want to go in depth into the OpTic match while I come back?
Yep. All right. So I guess for me, I was pretty surprised to see the ROKKR come back just because of the way that map 1 went when it came to that hard point. When you're thinking about, right, because as the course of that match plays out, when you're going map by map and you look at that map 1 hard point, knowing you have to play a map 4 hard point with how that map 1 hard point went, and Shotzzy just absolutely took over. I think he was like 34 and 18 something. I mean, he was almost double positive in that first hard point. They had a 100-point victory. It was like 250 to 157 somewhere in there. So when it came to that map 1, it was basically the Shotzzy show. And that's what happens when you have a player of Shotzi's caliber. Shotzzy can do it. We've seen Abizi do it. We've seen Standy do it. It seems like at this point in time, basically every one of these squads has an SMG that's capable of doing that. That's how competitive the league is these days. So that map 1 with a pretty dominant OpTic victory, I just thought, okay, this might not be the best. But as we've seen in past iterations of the CDL, ROKKR has kind of always started as a map 2-3-5 team. That's exactly what we saw in Black Ops Cold War. When it came to S&D strats, they were ahead of the game in Black Ops Cold War. And it almost feels like they're maybe a bit ahead of the game this year as well. So that Tuscan S&D, it really wasn't competitive at all. That was a 6-1 S&D. And then for the control, when you don't end up winning that map for that round 5 in control, knowing you have a hard point coming up, and then halfway through that map 4 hard point where you're down like 180 to 100, Shotzi's feeling himself. They've won the previous hard point. They won the previous respawn in control. It just kind of seems like, okay, this might be a little bit too much to come back from. But another point to add into that is just the fact that ROKKR is one of the few rosters that carried over from last year. So all of that chemistry that was built throughout Black Ops Cold War, the comeback when it came to the Major 5 finals last year, just kind of all of that chemistry coming back. It seems like if there's a team that's going to come back being down 180 to 100 in map 4 with the match on the line, this is a squad that could do it, right? You think ROKKR, you think FaZe, you think Ultra, just because, those teams have built so much chemistry. So to see them come back in that regards, I mean, I'm sure we'll dive a bit deeper into that. And then in a map 5 S&D, we have seen the ice from from Major Maniac to start with. We've seen, I think back to last year when it came to map 5 S&Ds, we've seen Priest to go like 17-4 to close out an S&D map to give them a victory. So if you can just somehow get to that game 5, I think as always, it's anybody's match. But just as a whole, I was impressed by the way Røkkr was able to keep their composure, even losing the control when that's a map that they probably should have win, having defense on Tuscan, then coming back in the hard point, and then coming back in the S&D. So I give them props. It was something that took me by surprise, and it was really cool to see them be able to keep their composure and come back in that fashion.
Search and Destroy wins championships. Search and Destroy creates the Røkkr reverse. Search and Destroy gets the Røkkr to do so well at champs. Search and Destroy is why the Røkkr won against OpTic. And not just because the Røkkr are good, I would put them as a top 3 search team because of chemistry. Like if I didn't have to look at stats or anything like that, just chemistry overall, you name the teams, them, Toronto, and FaZe. Oh, wait, it's the 3 teams that stuck together. They're the best Search and Destroy teams in the game, in my opinion, just off the top. Like I would expect them to do better than the other. Now Surge are putting together their own, like they 6-1 Ultra on map 2. Like they're putting together their own yeah, that's right. They're putting together their own repertoire, and they are. I can't wait to talk about them. I want to talk about the Surge a little bit, but since we're talking about the Røkkr and OpTic, OpTic didn't win a search that didn't go round 11. Like they have a hard time like blowing out a team in Search and Destroy. And even when they get a lead and are up 4-2 or 4-1 or anything like that, they still only win by 6-5 or lose by 6-5. And they lost by 6-1, in the map 2 against the Røkkr. And that's where I was like, okay, wait, the series isn't over. Because after that hard point, like you said, Icon, I was worried. If I'm honest and I want to be, transparent, I was worried about the Røkkr coming into the season. They were one of the 3 teams that stuck with a roster, and you always worry about that, except for FaZe because you have Simp and Abeezy. They're 2 of the most consistent players we've ever seen in Call of Duty history. But in terms of the Røkkr, there was roster changes last year. There was Standy came in, Lamar went off, Major left, then came back. There's a lot of changes that took place that had that team continuing to find their groove, and they did at the end of the year. But who knew coming into the season how good they were going to do? We knew they had the chemistry, and that's what led to the ice, and that's how they beat OpTic. I do believe that, like when they asked Major Maniac, somebody asked him like, "Hey, what do you think about your guys', like, are you going to be able to keep up in search?" And he literally just was like, "Our search game's fine." It's like we're going to be good in search. We need to worry about hardpoint, and that's what I keep hearing from the Røkkr players. Like we need, and it's kind of like unfortunately, it's like a broken record over the last couple of years, but I really feel like that's where their sticking point is because yes, Search and Destroy wins championships, but you don't want to have to go round 11, to win a series. You want to be able to have that. If you can win game 1, the confidence that you go into the rest of a series with it's a game changer. I would guarantee that OpTic throughout the entire series thought we have this because they won game 1. They had like, oh, we're up 1. Okay, we're tied. It was like, okay, now we're up 1 again, and then they thought they had the lead when they were playing against the Ravens. They went up 2 and then got reverse swept, because there is a that game point, that game number 1 is really important. And I think if the Røkkr can get to a place where they can win map 1, they are going to be one of the most dangerous teams in the league because they are very confident in search, like very confident. They play off each other extremely well. They get each other's tendencies. They know each other well. They probably have to communicate so much less. You think about those little micro communication that takes place. Like their small talk is probably so much more effective than other teams because they've been playing together for a long time. And then they were hanging out in the off season, jumping out of planes and having fun. So I'm excited for the Røkkr this year, and I think that OpTic's got some work to do.
Yeah, I think we're definitely. I don't think this is like something that foundationally should shake OpTic. You see Seth's tweet afterwards, like just super disappointed, like nothing's going right. Like those are not the type of tweets that you want to be seeing, at the outset of the season. But with that said, I do think that team is definitely, super good. They should be able to, get the go ahead and come back stronger. In terms of
Yep.
Røkkr, like everything you said about, Røkkr having the chemistry, like I think when you come back in the best of 9 to win a chip, like you really start to know that with this group of guys, like we are never out, right? Like we're never out of this. So I think when I would like to ask the guys like when they lost the control, were they like, oh man, like this is gonna be really tough. I was like, my mic is still cutting out. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm not sure what the deal is. They don't listen. They don't want us to win. They don't want me to win. They don't want me to win. I'm not sure how bad it is.
Yeah,
so.
it's the rotation. We rotate technical issues.
What was worse, the phone or the computer?
Hopefully the
better
chat
than
can
before.
respond.
They said
better than before. Okay. Shout out producer, and we got Will on the live podcast production.
Will, let's go.
Listen, we added another person and it got messed up. It literally was fine in testing. I'm not sure what the deal is, so apologies everyone for the audio issues. Hopefully it stays on the up and up. Let's get into predictions, man. I want to predict the next week. So we're in the middle of OpTic major qualifying matches. All the matches in this, I don't know if it's even group play anymore or if it's just predetermined pointage, freaking seeding, seedage, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Oh, this is going to be tough because I'm doing it on my phone. I can't really see the. Oh, I can see it. Okay. We can do
We
predictions.
can walk you to the matches. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Here, I'm zooming in super on my phone. Hopefully, you guys still see me. But yeah, okay. So sorry, technical issues are making it kind of tough. There you go. Thanks, Shannon, for giving me the image. All right, so looking at the schedule for this upcoming week, dang, there's a lot of matches. What the heck? Does everyone play? Crazy. You see that?
There's a lot, yeah.
Was there always that many?
2 on Sunday. I think there was last week, right? Was there 4 each day and 2 on Sunday, or 3 each day and 2 on Sunday? Well, there's 10 matches last week, so there must have been.
Yeah.
Quick math. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's 10.
All right. So how did we do predictions? We rotate around predictions like we each. No, I think we did one match at a time. What do you guys think is the best format going into the new season of rotation? Should we predict?
Well, we're only like 30 minutes into the show, so we probably could do each match. As long as me and IKON don't talk too much about our opinion.
One at a time. And it says, for the sake of your mic. All right. I won't start. My mic's probably messing up. So.
Oh, I see how it is.
Nah, listen. I mean, hey, all right, no. All right. I'm crazy for this, and I'm gonna admit, bro, I didn't know research. It's actually my first time seeing matchups. Like, I know who Røkkr plays, obviously, but I'm not sure on the other ones. This is crazy, and I know you shouldn't predict off of, I don't know, intuition. You always kind of look at the stats, analytics, make an informed decision. MiDNiTE. But I'm telling you, man, Boston Breach came out hot. I think a lot of people were surprised. I wonder if even they were surprised or no, not really. I think Paris Legion is going to sound crazy. I think Paris Legion is going to beat Boston Breach. I feel like Breach is going to get hype off their win, and Paris is going to come out and just figure it out a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. It's probably a dumb prediction, but that's where I'm at. I think Breach is going down to Paris this week.
Yeah, no, I think that kind of makes sense. Again, we don't really have a ton to go off of. And for me, whatever happened in the Kickoff Classic, I feel like I can't put that much weight into, like we talked about earlier, just because that was on LAN and it's a different scenarios, different situation. So just kind of looking at the week 1 matches that we have, Paris took FaZe to a map 5, and then they really didn't show up much against Florida. So it's kind of like one really good match and one where it's a little bit of a head scratcher. And then when you look at Boston, they had a map 5 win over LAG, but that's the only map that they played. So when you're looking at these two, it's just until you start to get 5, 6, 7 matches under your belt. It seems like some of these teams are showing up sometimes and other times they're not. So just for the sake of being different and the fact that Boston got a dub over LAG, I'm going to pick Boston here, and I think it will go map 5. I think they'll show up in map 5. So I'll say 3-2 Boston.
Oh, I forgot to do maps too, right? I forgot to do map. Yo, Paris 3-1. I don't know. Hey, how did I win about last year? Going by my gut sometimes.
Zinni no winning.
Even if it makes me say, ooh.
So for me, Boston, yeah, I need a bigger sample size, but they look good, and I heard they were really good in scrims. It's other teams were saying that Method's team, like early on in the game, was like playing a lot, and of course, this is a World War II-esque game, and so I think Zinni's going to play well on this. This is a game that if you have a good shot, and you got kind of the AR, you can do some damage, especially if you can move a little quick. However, I think the Legion did bring FaZe to a map 5. I don't think they looked too horrible in the series versus the Mutineers. They only lost to Hardpoint by 50, round 11 in the Search game, or round 5 in the Control, and then they did lose by 100 in the last Hardpoint. But this is a hard call. I was really surprised by John in a happy way, because at the kickoff it was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna make a roster change, and this is kind of, and I'm not throwing shade here, but this is like the battle of the last rosters, the battle of the last put together teams,
Right.
and so I think that each team has a lot to prove. Boston, you'd love to see him catch a dub and stay towards the top of the standings, because they're going to go up against FaZe on Saturday, and for Paris they're going up against a disgruntled OpTic on Saturday, so it's a really important win. I'm going to say Boston Breach 3-2.
So if I get this prediction, I'll be so happy, bro. To get one over. In case you guys don't know, we did predictions all last week, and I think
Hopefully her
IKON
mic
was
cuts out.
definitely winning. IKON was winning the prediction for a majority of the season, and then I came in the 11th hour. Boom, boom. Yo,
all
Shannon,
right.
come on.
Yo, Shannon, we gotta do
Get
this,
this
bro.
off the screen. Oh my goodness.
1205.
Why do I have 805 points in stage 5? Was that just generosity? Like, that's how bad I was losing? That couldn't have been right.
Maybe quick math, I'm not sure, but dude, yeah, I killed it in stage 5, and I ended up,
Oh, it's 85 points.
the
Darn
frick out. So yeah, dude, I might get this framed and put it up in my desk. I really should,
All right.
honestly. I would like that along with where's my belt? Where's my freaking belt? Don't make me call out Stone Cold Steve Austin, bro.
Yo, you looking at this? You want to know why you won? Is because Røkkr made that push in stage 5,
yeah, the Røkkr
and won
reverse,
stage 5 champs. That was what did it. You got basically 100 more points in stage 5, and that was it.
Shout out to the boys hooking me up.
Yep.
I mean, so how many extra points did I get?
A lot.
Sure? I don't know. It looks like I only beat you in stage 5 by 100, but ultimately ended up winning by more than 100 in the final point. So, I mean, if we want to pin it all on stage 5, I'll take it.
Stage 4, you did pretty good too.
Quick math, man. It looks like, looks like I held my own at champs as well.
Not this year.
So, anyways, match 2 here for the weekend.
Hey, when a belt is producer Shannon said, I am gonna get a belt, bro. And best believe my shelves are empty now, but my belt's going up there. And whoever wins it next can keep it. I plan on keeping it. I plan on
the belt rotates.
Rotation prediction. No rotation of the belt. Rotate everything else in the podcast, not the belt. Anyway, I'm sorry that I'm better at than you guys. Speaking of predicting the Røkkr versus Surge match, bro, the revenge match for Iceman accuracy on Seattle Surge. Man, I swear, someone find the tape. I swear when we did one of our off-season episodes, I was like Seattle's going to be nasty. They could be the low key, like, the team that goes from the bottom third to like the top third or at least like top six. So maybe a stale take, maybe just all in the hype. But I think accuracy surrounded by the three youngsters, super, super cool to watch. And they played like it this past weekend. So this is going to be a really tough match for Minnesota. I think we mentioned it, but Minnesota has a really tough break for the season, starting off with OpTic, then Surge, then Ravens, and then I believe it's FaZe after that. Sheesh, that's a
Jeez.
crazy, yeah, that's a tough stage one. But hey, what can you do? I think we proved it against OpTic. I do think OpTic's a good team despite them being 0-2. So, but I think Seattle Surge is a really good team as well. So, long-winded way of me saying, and maybe this is why I won the belt. I almost never predict against Røkkr. I cannot do it. I just believe, man. I believe in the guys. I believe in the team, and I think they're going to be able to pull this off. So I'm going to go with Røkkr. Quick math. 3-0. No, 3-1 over.
Whoa. I'll give you 10 points of my own if that happens.
Write that down, Will.
I said it live.
Right there.
10 points of mine can go to MiDNiTE if she gets that 3-1. I'm going to say 3-2 Surge, and no shade to the Røkkr because they played exceptionally well this past weekend, and I think they're going to have a great season. The Surge are this is World War II TK 2.0. Like, this is how Lamar came out in that game. He was just like, his team was just better than everybody. And everybody else had to learn from them. And I feel like normally I thought that was going to be FaZe this year. I'm not crying, guys. My eyes are burning. So, but like I was watching the I forget what it's called, but the show with Enable, and it's like Parasite Sensor and Aches now have a show, the reverse sweep thing for Dexerto, and they were talking about Ake said Sib is a top 3 player in this game, and I was like, he might be a top 2 player in this game with Celium. Like, Sib is killing it in so many categories. I think he's a leader in every category with the exception of S&D. And his HP and his control is really good, and I just think this team is on a mission. I think Lamar might have won the offseason, man. It's impressive what he has done, and I think that he's going to bring the ice. And that team, I don't think they're ready to be stopped yet. I think they will be, but I don't think they're ready to be stopped yet. They might get stomped out by an angry FaZe, some mini monsters, tiny terrors, whatever we're calling them these days. But I think Seattle's going to continue to stay on top, and I think they're going to take Minnesota 3-2. Don't hate me, chat.
Yeah, this is another interesting one because just kind of on the surface, you look at the success that Seattle has already had this year with wins over London and Atlanta and NYSL, and then losing to Toronto in the grand finals of that Kickoff Classic. Obviously, they're the biggest surprise so far throughout just a couple weeks of this first season. And then the online qualifiers, they got a 3-0 over NYSL, got some revenge, I guess you could say, over Toronto. But when you dig a bit deeper during those week 1 matches, they got a 3-0 over NYSL, but the map 2 S&D was round 11. The map 3 control went to round 5. So you look at how they're winning. Yes, they won a 3-0, but everything is going down to round 11 or round 5, or like the hard points. Against Toronto, they got blown out in hard point 250 to 142. So at the surface, I agree Seattle's the biggest surprise so far this year, but I don't think they're as far ahead as maybe we want to give them credit for. So I do think right now, with the way that they're playing and how high their team morale has to be, I mean, the start that they've had to the year has been unbelievable. I don't think anybody would have foreseen that outside of maybe that organization. But I think it continues, but I could see other teams catching up. I think that they're maybe just a bit ahead right now. I think Pred and Sib are playing unbelievable. So I'm going to go a 3-2 victory for Surge in this one. but I'm really tentative because I think that they're the best team right now. There's so much talent in the CDL. I think that everybody's going to catch up and start to come around. So I'm going to say 3-2 Seattle, but it would not surprise me if MiDNiTE gets some points here on us.
Well, and she's gonna get an extra 10.
That
That can't be that can't be considered an upset though, right? Like, okay.
No.
So have you guys heard the taller terrors thing?
No.
Like Sib and Pred are the taller terrors.
Wait, which one of them is Sib the super tall one? Or no, Pred is. Who's the super tall, like,
I have no
linebacker
idea.
looking player?
Yeah, that was Standy
That's
for
Pred.
me when I saw how tall he
Pred,
was.
yeah, dude,
crazy.
he came out at Kickoff Classic and he looked like he was about to choke slam everybody from the table. Like in a good way. He looked badass, bro.
He's got the sensor shirt on.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. They should have wrestling entrances for CDL. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, hey, let's get ridiculous. No, I respect your guys' prediction. We'll have to see how it unfolds. I feel like this gives us a little bit more, oomph going into the weekend. With that said, it has taken us 12 minutes, no, actually 14 minutes, quick math, to do these matches. So let's
we talk a lot, bro.
Let's rapid fire next. There's a lot of matches. I don't remember there being this many matches last week. Maybe I'm tripping. All right, Toronto Ultra versus LAG. I'll make this one quick. LAG's looking a lot better than they did last 2 years, obviously. But I think Toronto's got it. They are still looking really good. I think Toronto's should still be one of the most feared teams in the CDL. So I'm going to go ahead and take Toronto 3-1 here versus LAG. Not a whole lot of explanation, just going off my vibe, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll go second here. For me, I think that this is a pretty clear choice here. When Toronto, the only team you're losing to is Seattle, who's riding a high right now. I think right now Toronto's the second best team in the CDL. I think that they're the most consistent, and I think that from start to finish this year, they're going to be the most consistent team. I have a ton of faith in that Toronto roster, and it's a good story that came out of last year. So in this one, I think LAG is going to be far more competitive than they've been in the first 2 years of the CDL. I think you're going to see them in that middle bunch somewhere, just duking it out the entire season. But for this one, I'll go 3-1 Toronto, and I think it probably won't be that close.
Toronto is one of the best teams, with quotes around that we've ever seen in the CDL, and I think I'm like looking at stats, and I think Insight is the only person on their team that's top 5 in any category, and that's Control KD. But they get dubs, so easy 3-1 in my opinion. I just think they're the better team than the LAG right now.
You can.
Y'all want me to go first every time? I'm just.
You'll go.
I'm
how
so
about
annoyed.
you go first Friday? I'll go first Saturday. Kingdom can go first Sunday.
Hey, yo, I love the plays. That makes sense.
Let's get it.
Yeah, I mean, as the champ, I'm so sorry. I'm the worst winner. I'm a sore loser and a sore winner, bro. Like, as the prediction champion, I do understand why you guys would want to predict after. This is the first one we actually agreed on. So I think you guys. I mean, like we said, the league is so competitive now, and it always has been. Even more this year. How do you even? Some of this you just can't predict. So speaking of that, New York Subliners versus LA. Both of these teams did not get what they wanted out of opening weekend, right? They both, I don't think, like, lived up to their own set of standards. So I'll be really interested to see, how they come out. I think Subliners in particular, when you've got Crim and Clay on that team, I think they're going to set the ship right. And unfortunately for LA Thieves, I think they're going to be able to pull it off. So I'm taking Subliners 3-2. I think it's going to be close. I think Subliners they're not going to be able to steamroll them, but I don't. It's so hard. Subliners 3-2. I'll end it there.
Wow. Okay. I'm kind of going the other route. I think this LA Thieves squad is really good. I think they have the potential to win a major this year. I just feel like at each position they're pretty stacked. You look at how they performed on land at the Kickoff Classic. 3-1 win over Paris, 3-1 win over OpTic. I mean, they were dominant in those two matches. The only teams that they've lost to, they lost in map 5 to Toronto, and they lost to FaZe in week 1. So you look at their losses, I mean, I don't feel like you can put too much into the maps that they lost. Whereas I feel like New York is maybe struggling a bit right now, especially in those week 1 matches, dropping 2 of them. So I'm going to go LA Thieves here. I think it'll be close. I think it will go to map 5, but for me, I look at teams that are scary coming into this year, and I think that LA Thieves roster is one of them.
I hope for the sake of just like our Twitter, like we have a rotation Twitter DM chat, and if this does go to map 5, on the line, we're just gonna be stoked, dude. I really hope map 5. Kingdom, what do you think? It's Subliners, LA Thieves, main event on Friday.
I hope I'm not right, but I think we may be witnessing a breakdown with NYSL.
He said it.
Unfortunately, yeah, I know it's that
himself?
early, but
What?
unfortunately, we've seen like last year when people weren't listening, like Clay took a step off, like he stepped back. I think his mental health is really important to him, and if him and Krim can't figure out a way to like who's going to lead what, like they have a 0% win percentage in HP, 0% win percentage in S&D, and they're 1-1 in control. This team isn't a 1-6 team. They're not a 1-6 composed roster. Like when I looked at them, I was like, wow, this is a really great team. And I watch how Clay turns, and I don't know who's sitting next to him. I think it's Neptune, but he's like turns and like yells at every time they lose. And they lost 5 out of 6 maps. And so, 5 out of 7 maps, or 6 out of 7. And so losing 6 maps and being turned and yelled at, and Neptune seemed to take it well. But when you're a young guy, like that kind of stuff can get to you. And I think that team, either Bobble's going to have to help them get it together. Like, I don't know what they need, like a Swift Kick. They have some of the coolest like branding and ads like in the league. Like they rep New York really well, and they look happy when they're in their pictures and stuff. But for some reason, playing together, it looked good at the kickoff, but for some reason online, there's something missing, and I don't know what it is. LA Thieves 3-1.
Sheesh.
I said I'll go first going into Saturday, so we'll make this fair for everybody. I also want to point out through stage 1, through stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, I held a solid lead.
You did.
Not once last year did I come in here and brag. So let's put that on the record.
He's salty.
Hey, I am a sore winner.
Never had a lead, so I am open to both of you talking about how great your year was.
Want to take a second to recognize and apologize for absolutely fucking nothing, baby. Look at that, baby. Let's go.
Oh,
Shannon
man.
is feeding right into it. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. Appreciate it.
Shannon.
And Will, he's probably
All right.
encouraging it too.
Bro.
Saturday matches here. Big one here for Røkkr. I feel like this is, and it's no, I'm not going to say it's a must win, but it seems like it's one that they should win, right? When you think about the matches they have so far this year with a match against the Surge and a match against OpTic, it seems like this is one that they should get. And again, when it comes to the stage 1 major, you want to be in those top 8 seeds. If you're top 8, then it's double elimination for you. So that's kind of the bar you're trying to reach this year. Like last year it was you want to start in the winner's bracket, not in the loser's bracket. So for this, you just want to make sure that you're in the top 8. So when it comes to that, this is a match that if you're Røkkr, you got to get here. When it comes to London, I think that this is a really deadly squad. I think that this is the best London roster that they've had in the first 3 years of this CDL. So week 1 qualifier, yes, they were 2-0, but they got a victory over Florida, which is probably a bottom 3 team right now. And they got a map 5 win over OpTic. So I think that they're much improved, but I think that at this point in time, especially in S&D, Minnesota is the better squad right now. So I'm going to go Røkkr. I do think it'll go map 5, but when it comes to strats and S&D, I just think that we're ahead of the game. So I'm going to go 3-2 Røkkr.
Hey, let's go.
Want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead, Kingdom.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the same. 3-2 Røkkr. London. they look good, but I think they look good because they're good at responding to the public, you know, poor opinion of their gameplay. I don't think they're going to be a bad team, but I would say Røkkr 3-2. They'll ice up in game 5.
I think Rocker's gonna ice up in the series, bro. No offense to the Ravens. Oh, sorry, I'm so. I think Rocker's got it 3-1, man. I'm not sure which map they're gonna drop. If it's the control or a hard point, but it'll be. Yo, I just realized the really like big looking dude I think that I saw was on Royal Ravens. What's the new Ravens
Interesting.
guy name? The new
Either Nasty or Gizmo.
maybe it was Nas. I saw one of them at Kickoff Classic, an absolute unit on the stage. Looked like he was going to beat up everybody after the match. He looked cool, man. Yeah. So I got Røkkr 3-1. Should be this, as you guys mentioned. I think if we're looking at our tough stretch to start the season, Ravens are the team that I'm least worried about, but sometimes those are the teams you got to be most worried about. I think Ravens have always been a team that feels maybe counted out, and I think they play really hard because of that. It's not going to be an easy 3-1, but I think it's possible and likely that Røkkr 3-1. So, yeah. Next one. Go ahead, Icon.
Yeah. So second match of the day is OpTic versus Paris Legion. Looking at this one, this is the only match that OpTic has of this week's matches. And I just feel like this is one that they have to get.
Must win.
And like Kingdom talked about earlier with OpTic and their SMD troubles, it is so odd because when you look at that OpTic lineup, SMD is what they're known for. Like that's how Illy and Dashi, specifically those two, got into the league, is that they've played thousands and thousands of rounds in SND. They were playing SND tournaments when they were 12, 13 years old. I mean, that's how they made their name. So to see them not producing right now in SND, I don't think that's going to be a trend that continues throughout the year. And I think that this is a match that they really need to correct that. I think Paris is also much improved, but we're just not seeing the results right now. And I hope that they can get it together. I think that they're playing better than they played last year, but I'm just feeling OpTic in this one. So I'm going to go 3-1 OpTic in this matchup.
Same. 3-1 OpTic. They need it. It is in my opinion, this is a must-win for team morale overall. Rambo came out and said they're changing things and they adjusted some things, and then some people were giving them flack, of course, because they took an L. But if they would have won round 11, we'd be having a different conversation in either of their matches. But like you can't talk about a reverse sweep if you don't win that round 11 if you're the Ravens. So I really think OpTic needs this match. I think they're the better team. I think they'll get it together. And I think they'll win the search, and that's what's going to get them to 3-1.
Nice. Man, it's kind of nice when y'all go first. No, I just so I think like I did say they're gonna run all out of their juice by Saturday, bro. They're gonna use all that juice to reach, and I believe OpTic Texas or Texas I can't say Texas OpTic, it's OpTic Texas, bro.
Yeah.
I think that OpTic is going to trio the Paris Legion. Get the baguettes out of here and bring on the Texas toast. I don't know. But yeah, I think they're gonna 3-0 them, and it's gonna be pretty convincing. I think OpTics, they're not gonna start this season 0-3.
Nice. Yeah, I think we're all kind of on board here that this is a must win for OpTic. Third match of the day, FaZe versus Breach. I'm not quite sure where Atlanta FaZe is yet. I don't know. I think that for me, they're in that top 3 somewhere, but just based off of the performance that they had in that Kickoff Classic, it just gives me a little bit of, I'm not quite sure what to do with them yet in terms of Toronto and Seattle and some of the others that are at the top. But even with that being said, in the online qualifiers, they got a win over Paris. They got a pretty impressive win over LA Thieves. And I just feel like, this is just another year where they might not be as strong as they were before. I'll think twice. Like if they're playing the Torontos of the world or some of those other top teams, Minnesota, I think we match up really well against them. But I think against basically everybody else, they're still probably the better squad. So I'll say 3-1 Atlanta over Boston.
I'm gonna say it's an interesting conversation that after the first week of Call of Duty, we are not saying FaZe is clearly the best team in the game. Celium is easily one of the best players. He had the best stats this last weekend. And overall, I think he's third behind Sib and someone else. But uh, Boston again, not a good sample size. I think they probably will square up well against Atlanta. That's the thing these days. I'm having a hard time giving Atlanta free passes, especially with what happened with the Legion and hearing the players say the same things they said last year at the beginning of the season. Surge is best team in this game right now, in my opinion. I'd probably say Toronto is second. So I'm going to say 3-2 FaZe. I think Boston's going to give them a run for their money.
I actually agree with that. I think it's going to be a weird series. Maybe FaZe aren't quite sure what to expect. Put together a roster. I think FaZe goes 3-2 for the dub, but Breach puts up a fight because they lost to Paris earlier. I'm cutting out worse now? Well, crap. I'm so sorry, guys. Let's go. Let's make these quick if we can. Repeat the prediction. I got you. I think that FaZe is going to take it 3-2 against Boston Breach. I mean, I think it's going to be a weird series. I think Breach is hard to peg. I think for everybody, whether you're kind of analyzing the games or you're playing it, it's going to be interesting to see how FaZe takes Breach, but I think they're going to win 3-2.
Nice. So we're all kind of on Atlanta here, just maybe disagreeing on how much they'll struggle against Boston. And then last match in Saturday, LA Thieves against Florida. This is a Florida team that I don't know. It's just anytime I think of Florida, I think, okay, you've got Skies and Awakening, and then you don't ever really seem to get much more than that. It's a team that I always have a ton of confidence in, and I want them to perform. And then, okay, show me something. And it just doesn't really end up coming through. So they got to win over Paris. They ended up losing in pretty bad fashion to London. So I don't know. That mixed with the fact that I think LA Thieves is super dangerous. I'm going to go 3-1 here, LA Thieves. I want to see Florida turn it around, but I just, at this point in time with what they've done so far, I'm just not quite seeing it.
We only had two 3-0s in the first out of 10 matches, and I think we're not going to see very many this year. I feel like, the pros kept saying this is going to be the most competitive year, and it seems like it. It's really close. Florida got smoked like a pack of cigarettes by Royal Ravens. That was a hot 3-0. And like I said, that was one of only two that we saw, and the other one was Surge smoking the subliners. And so I think the Mutineers, they held up against the Legion and they looked better, but they definitely have something to prove. But LAT, man, I really like. I'm with you. I'm vibing with you on that Icon. They have. I don't know if I'm saying they're going to win an event this year yet, but they get along. They vibe well. They fit the whole like swag of 100 Thieves as an organization, and I think they're going to come out 3-1 Florida as well.
I got a 3-1 here as well. LA Thieves are going to handle business. Shout out to the Florida Mutineers, but I don't. Hard to say. Started, but I just don't think that Florida won the offseason in many ways. So, and I do think when you're looking at who's already won, LA Thieves has won the offseason before this, and I think they're going to take this 3-1. I'm going 3-0, baby. LA Thieves 3-0.
Trying to get them extra points. So I'll say this much to your point. With an asset like Skies and Awakening, yes, they could have had a better offseason. I would have been shopping if I was Florida before last season even got close to ending, because I would have known I got Big Wake who wants to play with him. But unfortunately, what happens in this league, it's not a friendship league, but when you know friends, you can get in. You look at what Zinni and Lamar have done with their two teams. You look at the Paris Legion. Like, there's players on that team that probably most people thought might not make it into the league, but they are. Temp got back in, and it gives John got back in, gives these people a chance. And then there's a lot of new players, and so I agree with you on the Florida. They lost the offseason. Definitely could have been in a better position. All right, Sunday we got two matches to close out the weekend. The first one is the London Royal Ravens versus the LA Gorillas. This is a spicy one. To be blatantly honest. Royal Ravens look good. They look like a really good team, but Lag looks good too. And when those guys are winning, nobody's gonna want to play them. It's just like LAT. Like if the Gorillas, if Hook and Slasher and Asim, if those guys are doing their jobs, that's a scary opponent, and so I'm gonna call this. This is a hard call. I'm gonna call this one definitely 5 maps. 3-1 LAG. I'm actually gonna change it up. 3-1 LAG.
Nice. Yeah, I dig that. I think if you go through the rundown of matches this weekend, I think that this is one of the ones that's going to be more competitive. Even though with our predictions, we did say a bunch of 3-2s, but I look at this one and I feel like this one could go either way. I think the deciding factor is going to be Asim because the week that he's had so far, he has been absolutely disgusting. And I think if you take the 8 players here, he's kind of the standout right now. And just the ability for a hook or a slasher or somebody like that to pop off, I think that's probably what gives LAG the edge. But I think both these squads are somewhere in the middle of the pack fighting for, who can be top 4 or top 3 or top 5 or somewhere in that range. So when I look at this one, I think it's going to be a bloodbath, but I'm looking forward to this one a lot just because I think it's going to be so close. I'm going to go LAG clutches up in map 5, 3-2.
Nice. I got LAG as well. I do think that it's going to be a 3-1 for LAG, but I think they're going to be close now. Like, you're not going to look back on this and be like, oh, yeah, LAG. Like, I agree with you guys. It's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be crazy. Just absolute punching back and forth. And I can't wait to watch it. I feel like it's 2 crack teams going against each other. And then, yeah, I mean, final match of the weekend here, Kingdom. What do you think?
Ugh, man. I mean, it's kind of an easy read, you know. I'm trying to
Why is this the last match?
I'm trying to, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like they could switch those, and it would actually, like that London Royal Ravens Gorillas match. It's anyone's game. Like we're gonna learn more about how LAG plays against Toronto and how the Ravens play against Minnesota. That's gonna inform that match. In my opinion, and maybe Florida will watch our show and turn it around. You want to say something before I
Go Florida. Nah, I was just gonna say conspiracy theory. There's a big game happening on Sunday, kind of around that time, and so I am not surprised actually, because usually the Sunday
Oh, good
matches at
call,
the end are freaking
MiDNiTE.
bangers lifted. I'm
Good
not saying I know
call.
how the CDL thinks,
But you
but
do.
that could be if I was making this schedule, I would possibly put Toronto all through versus Florida an hour before the big game. I'm sorry. That just
Well,
occurred to
and
me while we talked
I believe some of the executives of the CDL used to work in the NFL, so that would be it's a genius decision if they did do that and not have OpTic or FaZe or somebody play on Sunday. Yeah, Ultra 3-0. Florida, they have a chance to pick up a map or two, of course. But Ultra look really good. They look more like the team of last year than any team. If the Røkkr had more matches this past weekend, I probably would say the same thing. And so maybe I'll say the same thing coming out of this next weekend. But Toronto looks like they look the most similar to who they were a year ago of any team in the league. And Insight's never placed outside of top 3. So yeah, good luck, Florida. 3-0.
Yeah, I think we just said that the first game on Sunday is one of the hardest to talk about. I think this is probably one of the easiest. I know, Kingdom, you said earlier last time we talked about Florida, just kind of how weird their off season was. And you figure you take a start looking at their squad and you have Skies and you have Awakening. Okay, I've got my main AR and a Flex or 2 potential main ARs. So let's get some SNGs and they get another AR. It kind of didn't make too much sense to me on the surface. But this match specifically, I'll go 3-1 Toronto just to be a little bit different from yours. But yeah, this should be a Toronto win.
I got Toronto. I was going to say 3. I thought you would do 3-0 as well, Icon. Now I'm kind of salty you went 3-1. I do think Toronto also is going to go Florida here. I'll be surprised if anything else happens. But hey, surprises is why I love watching this CDL, right? I love when I'm wrong and I'm like, oh snap, this is crazy. Like I'll live for those moments. So I hope Florida can prove us wrong here, but I also think Toronto, this is one for Toronto where you're like, okay, we got this.
So MiDNiTE, I gotta ask. I know we're ending the show and everything, and we're like 9 minutes over. How was it like going into towards the end of that hard point, like Røkkr versus OpTic, and then going into map 5 and going into round 11. Like, what was that like for you? And like, were you with other people that are part of the organization? I don't know if you were at the watch party, but like, what was that like? You know?
So I unfortunately I was not at the watch party. We had a watch party at Imagine Movie Theater in Eagan, Minnesota, which is a really really cool venue. They have like bar acts going, and so unfortunately I was not at the watch party. I wasn't feeling the best that day, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna watch from home. So and boy, do I wish that that's not what happened, because what an insane match to be able to watch like with my best buds, like people I work with, fans I see at the watch parties all the time, or even just new people coming to the watch parties. You know, it was a bummer to kind of miss out on that experience. So it was like for me, after that control, I was like, ooh, this is gonna be tough. Like our hard point's not there right now. OpTic's insane at hard point. Like, what are we gonna do? And then when we were down as far as we were, I mean, even the casters, they kind of sounded like it was just over. And I'm like, well, you know, there's some money hills here, and if you hold the spawns, they can get kind of sticky. And hold on now, I never give up. Hey, hashtag never done. Right? We've watched them come back
Never chalk.
before. But then it's never chalked. But then when we watched, you know, they got the spawns for, I think it was P4. They got the spawns for P4, and I just was like, holy cow! If they can hold that, that'll be nuts. So what was I doing? I was yelling in my living room every time I saw Røkkr in the kill feed, securing, you know, still securing those spawns, getting those points. And after like literally after the first wave of kills, when they're trying to hold that, I was like, this is over.
It's
So
over.
my cat,
Seth
I
was
mean,
in position, but yeah, it was over.
my cat Simba here was upset because I was yelling. I also got my dog Levi behind me. He was hype. He was barking. It was insane. So it was pretty cool first match for a little. So yeah, and thanks for asking, Kingdom, because it was crazy. I do hope to go to the next watch party and just turn up with my Røkkr pal.
Yeah.
So we are gonna go ahead and it sounds like we actually with that Kingdom kind of asked me one of the fan questions that we have. We are now doing fan questions on the rotation every single week. Big shout out to Jack Frost Forever from Twitter. What was everyone's reaction to Game 5 round 11? I just told you mine. So
Wow.
you know, Kingdom, why don't you go
Mind
ahead
blown.
next? What was your reaction? Oh, this is for the
Honestly,
search. This is for the search though.
Yeah, for the search. Honestly, for the search, I literally wanted to tweet, "Wow, I'm mind blown." I don't know if I was in the kitchen, I don't remember, but I was watching on my phone, and I literally like wanted to scream, but you know, everybody around me would have been like, "What the heck are you doing?" You know, but it was just like it was so clutch. Watching the hard point, to your point, I was sitting there and I was like, is Seth gonna make a play when he was kind of hiding behind a pillar, like towards the end? And I was like, he has no teammates. This is over. Like we're going to game 5. And unfortunately, I think OpTic might have lost this. The moment it went to game 5, I was like, all right, Røkkr's gonna ice up. And then it was just so like back and forth. I had no idea who was gonna win. And like honestly, the way things turned out, it was just, you know, Seth got left in what, a 1v3 or something at the end. And I knew it was done. The moment that OpTic started to drop, the Røkkr played it so perfect. Once Illy got, you know, punched in the face or whatever, it was over. Like that, when he didn't get a single kill, when he had that free 2-piece almost, but they bust the door open or whatever, like, and he didn't get a single kill, it was kind of like, all right, you know, it's this match is over. And amazing, ridiculous, and happy for the Røkkr. That's what I felt.
Yeah, I was watching that map 5 round 11. I was super intrigued just because there started to be a trend throughout that map 5 on Berlin in that OpTic heavily favored on offense. They were always going to that B side on the top of the map, and we were always pushing the A side on the bottom towards part of the map. Every offense we went towards A, and then this is just where I feel like the same thing happened with Black Ops Cold War at the beginning of the year. It's kind of happening now, where our ability to adjust in game and our strategy might just be a little bit ahead because we were down 5-4. We were on offense. We had gone A literally the entire game. We switched it up when B won that round. And then when it went to round 11, we were on offense again and we went B again. It seems as though when it comes to, all right, they've gone A every single round, they're going to continue to push A. They switch it up the last 2 rounds with the match on the line. They go B. They're able to execute when they do go B for the first time. So for me, I was perplexed by the decision to go B just because it was different from what had happened the entire game. But it worked out, and they were able to clutch up when they did end up making that move. So major props to whoever ended up making the call. We've gone A every single round. Let's push B, the top side of the map. They executed. So whether it was Major Maniac or Priesta or whoever, it was a great call,
Priesta,
and it ended up working out.
And major props to leaving the bomb in the spawn, and it just worked out. Like
Attach had to go back.
Attach
Yeah.
went back and got, but he was able to check the cross like earlier than usual because he didn't grab the bomb, and then went back and grabbed it, and it was like perfect. Like if they would have taken the bomb at the beginning, maybe it wouldn't have worked out, but it just worked out perfect. You know, so it was great.
There's rumor has it there will be a comms video soon. We'll all find out. Was the bomb left on purpose or not? Find out.
Intriguing.
At first, I thought it was an accident, but it sounds like it might have been on purpose. It might have been a play. So, I mean, my reaction to the Game 5 Round 11, I really do genuinely believe this. Game 5 Round 11s aren't all luck, but sometimes they're just flip, like especially when you have 2 teams that I think have the capability to ice up. I did think OpTic is a team, and I love the OpTic guys obviously, but I do think they have a tendency to melt a little bit when stuff just gets dude, like they had to have lost composure losing that hard point. They were up 5-3 or 5-4, something like that. I think 5-4 in the surge. So when it goes to overtime, you're like, oh, dude, like we're so close. Why can't we just do it? And then, yeah, Røkkr is able to do what they're able to do. So obviously, I was super hyped, and I think it was a perfect way to start the season. Honestly, like I wouldn't want to have it any other way. Really, really good match to start off the rip here. So, guys, we've got fan questions. If you guys want to keep a lookout on the Minnesota Røkkr Twitter and Instagram, every Tuesday morning we'll be doing a little call to submit your questions so that we answer them here on the rotation. So make sure to follow the Insta. I think you'll see it like in the stories, and then obviously on our Twitter we'll put out a tweet every Tuesday morning asking for cues. So let's do one more here. That's all we got time for. We'll try to get to more next week, and I'm not going to be able to read this ad. Yuluri, that's what I'm just going to read this ad. Yuluri, there we go. Thoughts on us versus Seattle match with our boys going up against Lamar, who got benched last year. Do you expect the Iceman to come out with the fire in that matchup? Short answer, yeah, dude. Lamar is going to want to win this match so hard. You always want to beat your most recent team that you played for. I think it's a human thing, right? I don't think you could ever say, "Oh yeah, I don't really care like as much about this." I mean, I don't think anyone would ever like say that about a match, but like, is it like end all be all? Like, I need to beat Røkkr, whoa. Like, I don't think it's that kind of vibe, but I think he is going to come out with the fire. It's obviously a huge deal to beat your former team, and yeah, he's obviously proving like so far this year that him and Seattle, like they've got it. They have what it takes. So it'll be a really, really good match. I think he's going to come out with the fire. I think hopefully, our guys are going to be able to respond and answer back with fire of their own. So, IKON Kingdom, what do you guys think?
I agree 1,000% with your take. I do think that there might be a little bit that this is the team that dropped me. Now we're hot. I want to come out on fire, yada, yada. But are you telling me that Major Maniac doesn't also have extra to play for because he was the guy that replaced him, right? What about Standy? He came in late, and now you want to prove that if you're Røkkr, you made the right move with making those roster moves. So I definitely think that there's a little bit extra when it comes to storylines for this one. But I think that little bit extra, yes, absolutely, Lamar is going to be fired up, ready to play. But so is Major Maniac, so is Standy. I mean, I just think this is a one where you've got 2 teams that are playing really well right now. There's some additional storylines. I just think everybody's going to want to come in and pop off. I think it might even come down to who controls their emotions more throughout this one. That might be the key difference here.
There is no match this year so far where Lamar has not come with fire. I think it's a revenge tour, not a revenge match. And so he might turn the heat up a little bit, but yeah, the Røkkr need to be ready, and because the Surge will be as well.
I can't wait, dude. I'm so excited, man. I
It's gonna
love
be
all
hype.
these. I'm excited, bro. I'm excited for the next match. I'm so glad
Same.
to go to watch parties, talk with my dudes on Discord, talk with the chat. So yeah, really appreciate. No audio for me. That is not good. It's not what you want to hear. Hey man, we gotta just chalk this one. I'm sorry about my mic issues. Someone want to run the outro for me?
All right,
Say
guys. We
wise.
are we are ending off the show. It sounds like you guys cannot hear MiDNiTE. It's been a great first episode of the return of the rotation. Catch us next week at the exact same time in the exact same place, and look out for the tweet to be able to ask your questions so that we can throw you on the screen and share our wisdom with you. We'll see you guys next week.